Welcome, everyone, to SheSays Amsterdam, to our first live event since the before times. I'm really happy to see everybody here. I'm curious, how many of you are at your first SheSays event? Oh, great. A lot of you. Okay, welcome so much. Well, I'll give you a brief introduction to SheSays. SheSays is a global women's networking group. We have over 40 chapters globally, and we focus on getting more women into leadership positions. We focus on speaking about issues and cultural topics that affect everybody, but it's only humans who identify as women on stage. And I'm really excited to welcome you to the Great Reset. My name is Keisha Benvenuto. I am one of the organizers of SheSays Amsterdam. I used to organize SheSays Boulder in Colorado in the United States for about 8 years as well. And I also want to welcome the women of our leadership committee who are here tonight, who help make these events possible. So Sarah Aranya and Corinne O'Keefe, Franca Combo, Christiana Courtwright, Stella Van Schaik. Did I say that right? So welcome. And we have a lot of other things that SheSays does, including a mentorship program called Who's Your Mama? We just finished our first mentorship program about a month ago, and we're starting another one in a couple of months, so stay tuned for that. And we host a number of different kinds of events as well and workshops, so definitely follow us on Instagram and follow us on LinkedIn. I am really honored and thrilled to have 4 women here tonight who are masters, mistresses of reset and resilience, and I'm really excited that they're going to share their stories with you. I think you'll be incredibly inspired, and you'll also walk away with some tips and tools for your own personal resets. We have 2 women here with me in the audience, Merida Miller, who is the founder of Project Fearless, and Lisa Hogg, who is the CEO and founder of Brave. And then on Zoom, we have Semra Chalabi and Özlem Tuscan. And Semra Chalabi is with Startup Amsterdam, and Özlem Tuscan is with The Resilient. So we will. So we have an audience also on Zoom and on Salto TV. So if you're on Zoom, please send your questions in. We will absolutely get them. And audience members, we would love to have your questions as well. Please ask questions. We're going to do all the questions at the end. So the women will present first, and then we will answer all the questions at the very end. So without further ado, we're going to start with Lisa.
Okay, so when the event first posted about this evening, they used an old headshot, and I had a visceral reaction to it. And then I sat and I thought, why is that? It's because the woman on your left doesn't exist anymore. The woman on the right does. What happened was 2 years ago, I started a journey within. The catalyst was actually somatic therapy, which I'll explain in a minute. But basically went into myself to see where was I at? Where do I want to go? What do I want to be? And if you're wondering if it felt like a walk into deep, dark woods at midnight, yes, it did. So one thing, well, somatic therapy, if I start there. Somatic therapy is a body-based therapy, and how it worked for me was it helped me process trauma that I've experienced in my life, and process it in a way that it got out of my way, so that I could unblock and actually become my best possible self, and make better choices for myself. And one of those choices was to be sober as fuck. So I stopped drinking at the beginning of 2020. Timing amazing, but actually I do think timing amazing. It was when the universe wanted me to do that. And what it did was it actually just opened up a world for me in where I was 100% myself 100% of the time. So what I started to do was actually set really cool goals for myself. Last year I had 3. This was one of them, was to do a stand-up comedy set before I turned 45, and this was January 2020 last year. It scared the bejesus out of me. And I'm someone who's actually not uncomfortable being on stage, but this was next level. So what I would encourage you to do is definitely do things that scare you, but in a constructive way, not destructive. But it just started to give me more energy around actually doing new things and stepping out of my comfort zone in ways that really worked for me, and that sort of continued the reset. But the universe has ideas for us, and what happened was 2 weeks after that glorious moment, I lost my job. And I've identified with my career, well, I've identified myself through my career in a degree that made sense for me because my career actually gave me a lot of confidence to make some really big life decisions and make big changes. And then from 1 week to the next, it kind of felt like it was just slipping through my fingers. But luckily, I'd been doing the work for a few months at that point. And I knew that I had a choice. I had a choice on how the next chapter was going to play out. And what we seem to believe is that life just happens to us. And we actually don't have a lot of choice, whereas it couldn't be further from the truth. We have so much choice in what happens to us and how it happens to us. So I kind of lent in to this to figure out what was my next big step going to be. So I started Brave. I'd had this idea of a consultancy while I was still working at Tom's, where businesses need help in embedding impact into their businesses. And it's on 3 pillars of sustainability, strategy, and storytelling. I started at mid-first COVID lockdown. It was scary. I lent in, stepped off of the abyss, and I'm so fucking glad I did, because it's the best thing I've ever done. With regards to what I do with Brave, it's actually what I did with my own reset. So if I look at the strategy, the sustainability, and the storytelling, strategy, who did I want to be? What did I really want to do? What set me on fire? And what impact did I want to have on the world around me? Then from a sustainability point of view, how did I want that to happen? What kind of impact did I want to have on the environment around me? And then also sustainable from a point of view of how could I be in it for the long haul? So not just impact, but also kind of longevity in that part. Then the storytelling. So I'm quite a fan of being on stage. I like to tell stories. I like to write stories. But for anyone else, if you just take your story and put it out into the world and make it real and vocalize it, whether it's on stage, to your friends, to your family, whatever it is, as soon as you speak it and put it out there, it gives it more power. So that's where the storytelling aspect, and I was just lucky that I had a lot of people that were willing to listen to my story. I think they had a choice, I'm not sure. So then that's that part. But for me, what the biggest unlock was in my journey was radical kindness to myself. It was something that I wasn't taught while I was being raised. It was not something that was encouraged to me during the course of my career. So as you can see there, loving yourself isn't vanity, it's sanity. And actually my big unlocks came when I started to being super kind to myself, because I was always like a push harder, do faster, like punish myself and always have a trajectory, something like this. So now I am my biggest cheerleader. I'm lucky I have a few others, well, a lot of others, but I'm my biggest cheerleader, and I spend my time proving my supporters right as opposed to proving my haters wrong. And then playing small. I suddenly realized that I had been playing small in so many dimensions in my life that I just decided to choose differently. And it really impacted certain relationships in my life, but actually a lot of other stuff blossomed. So, you know, don't play small. It doesn't serve you. It actually doesn't serve the people you love either. And it gets in your way. Take your space. Live your wildest fucking dream. But in order to live your wildest fucking dream and get there, you need commitment. Kindness's best friend is commitment. Because my reset was not a happy accident. It was 100% intentional. So all you do is one day at a time. You make that commitment to yourself. You don't look at the staircase, you look at the stair. And after a period of time, you look back and you've got months of work behind you, and you look forward and you've got a world of possibility. But the line's not straight. For your progress to get to where you want to get to, it's not straight, but that's a good thing, because we often think in finite choices. So, if, for example, now with Brave, I'm a consultant, but I'm doing a year-long interim gig because I'm going to learn a shit ton from this company that I'm working with, and it was a calculated decision. Brave is still my 100% priority, but I'm just approaching it in a different way. And before, it was kind of black and white. You're either a consultant or you have a job. So I'd encourage you to kind of play with it a little bit. There are many ways to make your grand goal become reality. But then you're not going to get it right all the time. So tenderness towards yourself, speak to yourself as you would a friend who's had a shit day, and you learn from it. Because you can be soft and gentle and badass at the same time. Those things are not agnostic from one another. So again, that kind of kindness as you traverse this great reset. And then from a practical point of view, because we were like, give practical tips. So I'm going to share with you what I lovingly call my regime. There are a few things in here. So the somatic therapy, I could not recommend it more. So you find your appetite, you know yourself better. That's my therapist's name on the slide. Then exercise. So I have my two. Run. I run like I'm being chased. But I started slow and steady. I set targets for myself, and I tracked them, but I also walked in the beginning, whereas before I would have made myself run. So I started with walking, and then I progressed to running. Kickboxing, belonged to a community of like-minded wellness geeks. In our community, we love each other as much as we punch each other, or we love as hard as we punch. And it's great because not only does it keep you healthy, gets rid of your yang energy, but it's also a special feeling of belonging. Intermittent fasting, I replaced a glass of wine with a bowl of ice cream, niet de bedoeling for the Dutch people. So I just had to curb my late at night emotional comfort eating. So intermittent fasting really worked for me, but I think I could make it through hibernation. I've got a really slow metabolism, so it's not for everyone. And then straight edge. So I have a tattoo, it's a line with edge that I got done. And that is know your vices and make better choices. Now, it's not only alcohol or whatever. Vices can be work, sex, social media, whatever, but just make better choices for yourself when you know what your vice is. And then Brave's mission statement is, I believe that brave people making brave choices, brave decisions can change the world. And I truly believe that, and I hope this evening will help you guys make some brave decisions for yourselves. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Wonderful. I'm going to move right into Aslam Tuscan, who's joining us from London. Hi, Aslam. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Tennessee Williams once said, there comes a time when you look in the mirror and you realize that what you see is all you'll ever be. And then you accept it, or you actually stop looking at the mirror, or you choose to reset yourself. And are you glued to your seats? Because right now I'm going to take you on a reset. Picture this: you're nursing your husband through life-threatening illnesses, and at the same time, you're starting your own business that's in a very volatile emerging market while bringing up a 2-year-old. And then overnight, a military coup happens in the country, and you lose your 8-month pipeline. And to top it off, the day after, you're caught up in terrorist bombings. And before you know it, you found yourself having lost a 6-year business, diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, technically, clinically depression, all while losing a marriage in a divorce. This was my great reset, and I'm going to tell you what I learned on that journey. In Benet's 3D resilience framework, he talks about 3 resilience capacities: adaptive, transformative, and absorbative. The first is absorbative, when you're just coping. You're trying to stay stable. You're trying to really just resist. But if you just demonstrate an adaptive capacity to change, allowing your business, yourself to be flexible, then what happens is incremental adjustments happen. And if you fully embrace change, awake to change, going beyond just being flexible, transformation happens. That's where the magic takes place. And we have found what feels like overnight, our world's dislocated. Consumers and businesses dropped into a whole new reality, an unpredictability, that uncertainty being the only certainty. We're seeing new inter-COVID era that we're living in, dislocated worlds, accelerated tech. We are seeing a whole new world emerge, and few would disagree that we're in this moment of transformation. We're seeing whiplashing, breakthrough, and acceleration in technology becoming ever more intertwined in our daily lives. It's advancement transforming the speeds at which we live, work, and forge connections. Nothing we know is normal. And as that long-term impact of economic collapse, remote working, expedited digitization, and a collective health crisis are beginning to be felt on a very micro level, organizations are the ones to foster a reignited sense of optimism. And as those building and serving these organizations, we have to embody this new level of optimism, because essentially this is a rare opportunity to actually change course, because quite frankly, and as Toby Ord says, it won't be long before societal antibodies that we've created and learned and really seen take fold during COVID begin to fade. But the reality is we are living in a time where we are in the drift. There is inequality, polarization, climate crisis, mistrust for politicians, discrimination. And we're supposed to find optimism when we're in the drift, the confusion, the noise. And what happens is we're in the survival, scarcity, competition, mediocrity. And before we know it, we've lost our performance, because our performance is our potential minus the interference. And as we lose ourselves in the drift, before we know it, our potential is compromised. How quickly you reset to this new order will determine your performance. And essentially, it starts with you. So you might be asking, well, if I'm going to take a reset in my life, what shape does that actually look like? What was the shape of it before? And what is the shape of it actually now? And this is a question I ask myself. Is it circle? Is it triangle? Is it a line? What was I expecting? But the reality is society tells us it's a straight line, or it has done up until now. By the early modern era, the idea of life that followed a circle died, and it was replaced by the idea of life proceeding through a series of ages, phases, and stages. People didn't care about their age. Instead, it was about periods, youth apprenticeship, marriage, parenthood, sickness, death, and so forth. And these series of expressions arose that captured these progressions. Everyone now neatly followed a life course, a span, a life cycle. And in fact, the word wheeled vehicle, the word for career, did you know that, was invented to capture what it felt to navigate this course. These constructs normalize that life was universal, rigid, unforgiving, that life went up and it went down. And the reality is we've shifted from that concept. And we are now in a linear understanding of living. And I began to see that in my life. And it was characterized by a more fluid, dynamic understanding of life and an unpredictability that I began to embrace. So ask yourself, what shape are you pursuing in your life? Are you in should or are you in could? Are you in a reaction to a former version of your life that you were thinking about? Or are you actually consciously in response, shaping and molding a life you can create that's your design? Because we are entering a new era of looking inwards for personal transformation like we've never done before. An era of self-discovery in order to really stand strong in the drift and experience new ways to go through walls and discover parts of us we've never even known existed. And when it comes to awareness, we think we're all aware. Research shows 95% of people think that they're self-aware, but only 10 to 15% actually are. Many people don't stop to look at themselves in life, the way they are, their personality. So do you have awareness of your self-awareness? Are you in response of your thoughts, making conscious choices? Because today's winners are, today's businesses require people, managers, and those starting entrepreneurs, starting businesses to be led by consciousness, a state of awareness that's responsive to those around them. And when we look at branding, when we look at purpose, 76% of marketeers believe their organization has defined their purpose. But when it comes to looking at how that purpose goes beyond the product and the service to true social commitment, only 10% claim that. So they're not really walking the talk. They're not being conscious. This is a movement. And the real question that I had to ask myself was, am I ready to take radical responsibility? Are you willing to take that? Because true leadership, a transformational leadership, can only happen when you can say, if it's to be, it's up to me. Don't be in blame, shame, hate, guilt. You are giving away your power in that moment to the environment, to the interference. You get to take it back. Stand in your performance. And can you say, I am reset? Or are you saying, I will reset? I will try to reset. I hope, wish, want doesn't create transformation. It just creates more hope, wish, and want. So I am says you're committed. Are you in a relationship with your word and keeping it? If not anything else, if you have that, you have something incredible and you're in your excellence. And excellence is crucial to today's expertise. And get very friendly with fear. Get really friendly with fear. It's here to serve you. Your ego is here to protect you, to put you out of your harm's way. Thank it, but don't get dragged by it. Read the emotional signs that your body's speaking to you. There are 34,000 emotions. Don't try and repress them. They'll come back stronger. Respect them, and they are your soul speaking to you. And when you're in doubt, focus out. Be in service of others. And know that as a part of that commitment, it's about a real sense of pledging to discover, knowing and standing in that place that you believe 100% is possible 100% of the time. That is how I define commitment. And that keeps me in this beginner's mindset. And I'm, kind to myself, staying in wonder and curiosity, and knowing and believing that every day brings possibility. And truly understand that when you are in a relationship, it's not a transaction. You are in a value exchange, and you don't get to just come to a role or a business with your skills and expertise. You bring your culture, your whole story, your life. Businesses are trying to shift to human businesses, and you get to be a human being at the table. There's only one you. You are the author of your life. The word authenticity comes from authorship. And find a problem that you truly care about. Know your love values, live through your intention. And if you don't, that's okay. Know what you don't want. Some of the best decisions I've made have been based on knowing what I don't want. And when you're in that moment, that acute moment of overwhelm, something I experienced a lot, just take a moment to reset your thought. One flick of a switch, one change of a thought, one change of a word that you project out into the universe can help you shift into a new action, a new sense of behavior. And the second most valuable thing is, don't say you don't have time. We have infinite time. When you say you don't have time, you're actually saying, I don't want to connect. You're saying that you want to avoid connection, make deep connections, trusting connections. People are willing to help you. They are there more than you think. We might not like what we see, but there is comfort in knowing ourselves. Furthermore, it gives you power because you are so powerful. Awareness brings you power. You are the uncontested author of your life. You get to have your own IP, your own currency. You get to tell your story, your unique, compelling story. So next time you look in the mirror, ask yourself, who is it that you see? Thank you.
Beautiful and beautiful slides. I'm wondering if we can raise the volume on the Zoom speakers just a little bit. Okay, thank you. Okay, and welcome, Semra Chalabi, also
thank you.
On Zoom, here in Amsterdam, though. Welcome.
Can you guys hear me well?
Can you all hear well enough? Do we need to raise the volume more on? Okay, we're good.
Yeah?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, perfect. I'm waiting for my slides. Yes. So that's me, born and raised in a small Dutch village. Despite my family's best intentions, my options and worldview were quite limited. My Turkish family had been migrated in the 70s from Turkey to the Netherlands, and this is me at the age of 11 wearing a hijab. They wanted me to be good and fit in, and I was very good at school. I aced my grade and spoke perfectly Dutch. But fast forward, at the age of 27, I chose a different path. That was my first reset. I had to create my own new identity without the Muslim one. And also maybe not even the Turkish one. I moved to Amsterdam to live on my own. And it was a huge struggle that took a lot of time with my parents. I felt that the solid ground was just gone underneath my feet. I didn't feel safe, and I developed anxiety attacks. It took a while. I'm in a much better place right now, but I'm still very sensitive to it. This transformational experience taught me to definitely stay true to myself, and it is very important that you follow your heart and believe in the life that you have chosen for yourself, despite of what the people who love you the most say. Fast forward again, after the birth of my second daughter, Yar, I thought to myself, I had worked for the city of Amsterdam for 10 years, and then I thought, okay, so what is it that what's my legacy? What do I want to give back to the world? And how do I want people to remember me? So I dived into my purpose journey, as I call it, because I had my first reset, and this was the second one. I knew I needed to do something in order for the next generation. And I think that it's very important that you find your purpose. Why? Because if you find your purpose, you will definitely take steps and achieve goals that you've never achieved before. The book that I read for the first when I started my purpose journey was Ikigai. Most of you must know this book. Ikigai is called A Reason for Being. And I used this framework to actually start the first steps in finding my journey and also creating my career around it. Let me see, I wanted to sell, but when I started at Economical Affairs after working for diversity and inclusion, I actually realized that my mission, after the purpose journey, I realized that my mission was helping women to achieve their full potential in their careers and in their businesses. And then suddenly, female entrepreneurship came onto my path within the city of Amsterdam. I had never thought that this would happen for me. The universe had opened the door, so I could actually do the work that I was meant to do, and while working for the same employer. I'm showing this framework of Ikigai because it has several components, just to give you some tips on how you can start your own purpose journey. And I'm just going to touch upon a few of the different quadrants, not all of them. The first one is going to be shown, I think, for me, it will show in a sheet, the next sheet. The first one is that you need to figure out what you're good at. And that's basically talks about your strengths. And it's a combination of your talents and your skills. So when you want to figure out what your talents are, I think one of the questions that you could ask yourself, what makes me unique? You could ask the people around you, or you can ask those questions to yourself. What are the things that come easily to you and are maybe very difficult to others? As Lisa was mentioning in her talk, that it's easier for her to get onto stage, but there are a lot of people who are super scared about it. So that's definitely a talent that she has. And on the other hand, it's also maybe interesting to see that what are things that you find very fun, or other people can find maybe really boring or just weird or super difficult. Try to figure that out, and I can definitely advise you to ask people around you, because that helped me a lot. I found that really scary in the beginning because I was very afraid of the feedback that I would give. But again, it's better to be brave and fearful than not at all, not doing at all anything. So then the second one talks about your skills. The questions that you could ask yourself, the skills is basically a combination of your experiences and your education. So what you studied and what you maybe did in your free time, and what you have learned on the work floor. So that's quite an easy one. There are a lot of tests online that you can do to figure out what your skills are next to that as well. I think that's, and also an interesting thing when it comes to skills, figuring out your skills, is what do people tend to come to you for advice for example? What do they ask you for help? And are there any things that you actually taught to someone? This can be really small things, but there must be some things that people always ask you, for example, or there other people say that, yeah, you should ask her or him. And then the other one, of course, is passion. I'm one of those people who actually believes that you can create a career or a business around your passion. I think this is one of the important ones because it talks about what energizes you as a person. And this can actually really predict and make you take steps towards living into your purpose. Questions that you could ask yourself when it comes to figuring out your passion is what made you happy that you were doing as a child, and also what do you do in your spare time, maybe as a hobby or other things that really give you joy. It also helps me to make a vision board. I don't know if you have ever heard of it. You must have. I create vision boards digitally, but also just at home. I make a collage of pictures that resonate with me and make me happy. So then the last one I want to tap upon is our values. Islam talked about that as well. It's very important that you know what your core values are in order to get closer to your purpose. Because your values guide your beliefs, your behaviors, and your decision making. Most of the times, even on an unconscious level. If you're not fully living your values, then you will always feel a certain feeling of unfulfillment within yourself. So, for example, if you value family time and you have a 70-hour work week, then you will feel that that's not right. Because it's really against one of your values. Or if you don't like competition at all, don't like a competitive environment, but you work in a corporate that's super competitive, then you won't be happy in the long run and just do your work to work. And in the end, we don't really want to work just to work. understanding your personal value will help you definitely to live an authentic life that's in alignment with who you are. For me, that was autonomy. That was one of my core values. And I'm really happy that I'm taking steps towards that at the moment. And last but not least, this is not, as everybody said, it's not an overtime thing. It's a huge transformational journey. I'm on this journey already for 3 years, and I know that I'm not there yet. I think it's a very fun journey. It's an inward journey as well. It's quite confronting. You just need to accept that you need to take the time, that it's a step-by-step process. But if you just keep on going, then things will really get clear and things will get into motion and doors will open that you wouldn't imagine that it would open for you. I have never achieved as many goals as I did in the past 2 years at the City of Amsterdam. I'm working there now for 12 years as a civil servant. And in the last 2 years, I've never been this visible and I've never taken so many steps. So I really urge you to take these steps as well. And last but not least, clarity comes from motion, movement and motion. So you got to know, you got to just keep going and then you will get that clarity. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Semra. I have so many questions for everyone, but we have one more speaker, and I can't wait to hear you speak. Merida Miller, thank you so much for being here.
Do we have slides? There we go. Thank you so much, everyone. I am Merida, and yes, I am now the founder of Project Fearless here in Amsterdam. I've been lucky in my life to have a couple great resets, like the time I had to switch majors from zoologist to fashion designer due to my uncanny ability to faint anytime there was a dissection, or the time I decided to quit the safety net of my corporate job and launch a nonprofit working with young children, of which I had no experience, in a country I didn't speak the language. Today, we are going to speak about the latter. In 2017, I had been and was the advanced concept designer of the innovation team at Under Armour. A very sexy, very long title, of which I often said and was met with, "Your parents must be so proud. That's so cool." And they were, and it was. But after 7.5 years, I often left feeling a lot like this girl in the backseat of a car, which she had no control over. The truth is, by the end of 2017, I'd hit a wall. I was unfulfilled, emotionally empty, and I knew this wasn't the place for me. This career I was building wasn't where I was meant to be. So it was time for action. So I spent the first 6 months of 2018 emotionally and physically exhausting myself, searching for my what's next, rushing to interviews in different career fields, getting so excited, thinking, oh yes, this is it, only to walk out of the interview crestfallen knowing, yeah, that's not it. I was going to networking events and inspirational talks and going to workshops to launch your next business idea. And at one of these workshops, I was sat very sad, clearly very lost, when one of the facilitators asked, "What do you want to do?" And I paused, and through that little buzzing sensation in your nose when you're about to cry, I said, "I just want to help others and be happy." Those words were really heavy to me back then, and I'm so thankful I spoke my truth, because the facilitator followed with the goal, if your goal is to help others, you must first help yourself. What do you need? It was like a light bulb that went off. In that moment, I knew that in order to make the best impact, I needed to go back to when I was the best Merida. I thought back to a time in my life when I truly felt me. It was when I was working as an adaptive snowboard instructor for those with disabilities. And through that memory, I realized 3 very important things were happening all at once. My Venn diagram. The first is, which any Project Fearless girl will tell you, I have to be the #1 hype girl. I will share this title, but I will cheer, scream, and yell and give you the best pep talk you ever heard. When I'm in the action working with my hands, I love building, breaking, and learning through doing. And when I'm creating an impact, that is a ripple effect. So when I go to impact somebody else, I know they're going to go impact somebody. They're going to pass that impact on. So at this point, I had my pillars. I knew who I needed to be, but what was I going to do? Luckily, throughout my tumultuous roller coaster of 2018, it turns out I was actually researching. I heard over and over again women saying things like, but I'm scared to do X, what if I fail? Or I'm not good at speaking up, or I don't fit this leadership mold. And I realized with all this work that was for women at the top and trying to close the gender gap, which is great, still needs to be done, nobody's working at the root. Who was giving girls the tools to succeed on their own terms from the early stages of their life? So my mission became, knowing what we know now, imagine how we'd talk to girls if we could start again. But before we talk about Project Fearless, I want to talk about your reset and 3 hot tips to help you get started on your journey. The first is do the work. I think every single woman spoke about the work tonight, and the work is different for everybody. But you need to work on, find your work. Sorry, find your why. Find what makes you tick, but also find out what you don't like to do. I cannot recommend this book more highly. Whether you're in need of a rest, a reset, or a recalibration of your current situation, this book will help you. But you need to do the work. Break out the pencils, the Post-it notes, start writing, remembering, ask yourself the hard and the easy questions. You never know what you're gonna come out with. You may come out with the Ikagi circles, you may come out with a compass, you may come out with a Venn diagram, but first you must do the work. Next is owning your story. There's a big difference between telling your story and owning your story. When I first quit my job, and Project Fearless didn't even have a name, I used to say things like, yeah, I'm gonna create this space where girls are gonna come together, we maybe do some building, breaking stereotypes, and yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun, confidence building. And people would look at me like, you're gonna do what? You've quit your job for what? So I realized I needed to change that. And it became, I am creating a space that when a girl walks through our doors, she can shed who she thinks or has been told she needs to be, and instead discover herself on her own terms. Mic drop. And lastly, show of hands, who has trouble asking for help? Okay, come on, please, just come on, okay. So this was a huge roadblock for me. And as a founder of a startup nonprofit, I have to ask a lot of things of a lot of people. Some of those are in the room right now. Well, I was fortunate enough at the very early stages of the brainstorming around Project Fearless, I was talking to my good friend Steph, who is also a mindset coach, and she said, imagine if you were to receive what you were asking for. Imagine the one girl it would benefit. Now imagine she goes on to empower another girl. Now imagine you get the next resource and the next one. How many more girls can you impact? Imagine all of these girls, that's what you're asking for. So now, when I ask for time, money, or something else, I know I'm not Merida Miller asking for help. I am just one fearless leader asking on behalf of a million other future fearless leaders. In 2019, I launched Project Fearless. Through our after-school programs, we support girls through the formative years, giving them confidence and tools that they can take forward in all aspects of their life. Through our programs, we grow resilience, tackle perfectionism, and build confidence. 3 things we know that can directly impact a girl's future. Between the ages of 12 and 13, the percentage of girls who say they're not allowed to fail increases by 150%. So how do we flip that switch? Quite simply, we practice failing. We fall a lot, we talk openly about it, we celebrate our mistakes, and know every time we fall, flip, slip, and get back up, it's all part of the process of our building our resilience and our ability to get back up no matter what. Oh, wait, surprise. More than half of teen girls feel the pressure to be perfect. And how many of you, as adults, can relate to this? Thank you. So to tackle perfectionism, we focus on a growth mindset. We track our progress, and we add one simple word to our vocabulary on a daily basis, yet. By saying yet to something, we automatically open doors to what's next. When someone says, I can't skateboard, it's like a big steel door closing down. But when someone says, I can't do blank yet, we've left open the room for a million possibilities of how we're going to learn to skateboard, learn how to draw, or how to save the planet from climate change. Between the ages of 8 and 14, girls' confidence drops by 30%. Imagine how different your life would have been if you'd grown up knowing you were enough.
1, 2,
there's some sounds. We teach our girls to take up space. We encourage her to believe in herself, her body, and know in her mind she is enough, just as she is. My goal is to set up the next generation of fearless leaders, not to avoid their reset, but to know whatever life throws at them, wherever they are in their roller coaster, they can handle it. And not only that, they will grow from it. And to be honest, this probably isn't my last reset either, which is why I'm going to give my future self, and you, 3 more tips. Yes, it's my favorite number, of how to go forward into the unknown. One of my favorite things to say when life is going a little topsy-turvy is, well, this is an adventure. Sometimes it's through grit teeth, and sometimes it's through a smile. Every step of the way, it will feel weird and new, and that can be exhausting. And there are some days where I just don't want to learn anymore. But just like the work that we do with our girls, I work on growth mindset myself, and I try to practice what I preach. And therefore, I've learned to always be comfortable in the testing phase. Don't get me wrong, as I mentioned, it's exhausting. But by saying, this is an adventure, I can laugh, cry from every new experience, and most importantly, grow. Pace yourself. My coaches are looking at me like, mm-hmm. Speaking of practicing what I preach, this one I don't do well yet. When you do find what you love, it's going to be so exciting. You're probably going to throw all of yourself into it because, oh my gosh, it's here. But I need to tell you one thing. Confucius was a liar. Just because you love what you do and you found exactly where you're meant to be doesn't mean it's going to be sunshine and roses at all times. To be honest, it's probably going to be more exhausting because it's all of you into the world. And how could you possibly stop now? I know I've often found myself thinking, it's just one last email, it's one more lesson plan, but it's so important to remind yourself to pace, even if you love what you do. Maybe more if you love what you do. It's important to find something you love on the side, whether that's cycling or learning how to skateboard as a 32-year-old. Whatever it is, find time and make time for it. And remind yourself, you and your business will grow and benefit from taking a break. And thirdly, use your parachute. Nothing is final. If you get to your next reset and think, that ain't it, that's okay. You can go back and start again. But stick to your pillars. Stick to your truth and what you know of yourself. There we go. I promise you, you got it. So yes, although this may not be my last reset, and certainly not my last adventure, I know with 100%, without a doubt, that I'm exactly where I need to be. I know I'm the best at what I do. And this is not a humble brag. This is me owning my story. And I hope it empowers you to do the same. And one last thing. I hope you've been taking notes. Something I've learned over the years is, like leadership for success, fearlessness means something different to everyone. Some of the girls say, it means doing something when you're not scared, or it means that you can be yourself and others will be good at other things. And the truth is there's no definition too big or too small, but whatever your definition is, own it, live it. So team, turn to your neighbor, give them a high five, and go live fearlessly.
Fantastic. So cool. Actually, just a really quick story that I want you and Lisa to tell, because you both didn't know that you were going to be speaking together, but you have a history. Can you just tell us quickly about your history together?
Is this on? Yes.
That's one of the things.
My last official job, I led marketing and giving for Tom's Shoes in EMEA, and we were doing a project in the Netherlands around street harassment and gender-based violence. And we were looking for nonprofits who focused on this issue area. Shock and horror, they're not a lot, which is a whole different conversation. But I had an amazing team that I worked with, and Justine, that was in my team and responsible for the Benelux, came and said, I found this amazing nonprofit, and it works with with young girls, and they do, they build confidence and whatever. And we were like, yes, this sounds like a great idea. So that was Merida. And why don't you tell them where you were at that point in time?
This is on, yeah. Yeah, so I got a call from Tom's, and they said, hey, we have this impact grant. We love what you do. We're really excited. We saw your website. I said, great. Went back home. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Tom's just reached out. They want to give me this money. Next phone call. I got to be honest. I just want to let you know, we've done nothing yet. Those are stock photos. We will do something, but we've done nothing yet. So trust us, we're going to make it happen. But yeah, it was a leap of faith of everybody. And without Tom's, we wouldn't have had our first programs launched. So very thankful. So it's cool to be sitting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to be able to know that we weren't wrong. So.
Yeah, exactly. You weren't wrong. You weren't wrong.
Well, that ties into what you said, which is just first put it out there, like tell somebody, and that's what you did. You put your website out.
Yeah, that was it. I think we had 3 slides
calling.
on our Instagram and Build, Make, Be, and our website, which looked amazing, but all stock photos. It's all been refreshed now.
Yeah, I love that story. I actually wanted to ask. Oh, great! There you ladies are. Okay. Semra, I really loved hearing your story, and I can only imagine how terrifying it must have been in that moment to make the decision to no longer wear the hijab and to try and find your new self and your new community. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how we as individuals can find new communities when we're changing who we are and who we show up in the world when we're in transition.
Yeah, that was really weird to experience, because I really needed to say bye to friends I had for many years, because I didn't feel I belonged anymore. But then now I went through so many phases in my life that I just accept that throughout your life you get to know new people and you get to access new communities, and that you just embrace it. And because if you really know where you are going, then you attract those people as well. So they come onto your path. And I think that's what you need to accept and embrace as well. And first it was really a struggle, because it hurt so much that my old friends, some of them didn't accept me basically anymore. But then I knew that there were also a lot of new friends that I made who did accept me as I am. So embracing that was definitely for me the most healing part. And now as a mother, you get to get new friends who are the mothers of your children's friends. So then you get a new set of friends. So it really depends on the phases of your life.
Yeah, you made a leap of faith around human connection. And Azam, you talk about that as well, about how in overwhelm, it's important to actually connect or with the feeling of lack. Or so could you talk a little bit more about that, and about what that means and what that looks like when we're feeling really alone and really terrified, and that there's no abundance, let's say, for us? Oh, I think you're on mute.
So when I was in a very traumatic phase of my life, when I was clinically diagnosed with burnout, just after all of, again, like everyone else, multiple resets. And the most recent reset was 2.5 years ago when I was diagnosed with burnout. And in that time, there was a point where I felt so alone, so fragile, that I felt shame. And I didn't feel the confidence to pick up my phone or have the courage to just reach out to people. And I didn't think people were really going to want to get involved in something that messy. So I was in this judgment, and I was using my own judgment to create this experience around this event that was happening in my life. And actually the event was neutral, right? I was diagnosed with burnout and I got to tell that story, but I wrapped it up in this incredible script and found myself one night with a very high-powered job. And I've never told the story, and I'm going to say it here. I didn't want to speak to anybody I knew. I just wanted to speak to somebody, though, because I felt so dark. And I'd recently moved from Turkey. You know, the season was different, the food, the water, everything's different. So I'm adjusting on a biological level, cultural level, pace, everything. But I wasn't thinking about it from that perspective. And I just picked up the phone and called the Samaritans, which, as you know, is somewhere that you call when you are really in a desperate situation. And I had this incredible life-changing conversation with somebody who just asked me, is there anybody that would want to know about how you're feeling right now? And when I was asked the question, I thought, well, actually, yeah, my childhood friend of 30 years would want to know. And what would happen if you called her? And I said, well, she'd probably drop everything and be here in the next half hour. And it was just that moment. And that's exactly what I did. I got off the phone, called her, and she was there within the next 45 minutes. And she stayed with me the whole weekend. And it was that moment where I realized I had created the script for my life and what connection looked like. And throughout all of my darkest, overwhelmed moments, when I've reached out to people, I've been so blown away by how much love and support people are really there, ready to give. And if you look at all of the science and the research around resilience, and I do a lot of coaching, mindset coaching with the entrepreneurs that I work with, because essentially mindset is 100% of the result. That when they connect, when they truly lean on people, when they truly show vulnerability and ask for feedback, and feedback gets to be neutral, they really start to see strengths in themselves and they start to really step into their resilience. So be vulnerable, reach out to people and connect with them, I would say.
Yeah, I really love that. And I hear all of you talking about these negative voices, and it sounds really easy, right? Like, just stop your negative voices. But Lisa, I'm just wondering if you have something.
Someone's trying to get your attention.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I need to say goodbye to our audience on Salto, because it's a hard cutoff at 9 p.m. So thank you so much for watching us. Bye, Salto audience. And thank you. Thanks, Lisa. But I was going to ask you, what are your tricks for catching those voices before they do too much damage?
I mean, the great thing is now my voices are quiet. That makes me sound totally unstable. I am a little bit, makes me fun. So I had an incredibly negative narrative that played in my head. My daughter's whispering something. I had a very negative story in my head that was constantly based on the not enough, kind of just really talking me down all the time. And I can't really tell you exactly when I managed to stop them. But what I can say is that it goes back to the radical kindness part. I would never talk to anyone else that I love the way I spoke to myself. And I started to, we've all spoken about it, own your story. I think each of us has mentioned it in some guise. So it's just really stand proudly in who you are. And then I just kept on catching myself. And even now, when it happens, I'm like, oh, don't talk to yourself like that. I get really horrified. And that used to be how I used to talk to myself every day. So it is, I will say, in the beginning, it's totally fake it till you make it. Because it's not, especially for those of us who have lots of, the records that play in the back of your head that kind of talk you down constantly. You have to just practice one day at a time. And then all of a sudden, I don't do it anymore. I caught myself doing it again like a few months ago when I was trying to, I was focusing on manifesting something and I was like, ugh. And then I was like, mean girl, stop it. But it is actually, it's quite good to really also catch yourself. And there was the mention of resetting in that moment of negative thinking. You can completely turn it around in that minute and choose differently for yourself. But I think, honestly, I do think it's a practice makes it perfect deal, because if you don't repeat the behavior, it's not going to become a new habit. And I'm super grateful that it's a new habit.
And Merida, I'm sure you talk to your girls and your young women a lot about this, about self-talk, and I'm curious, what do you say to them? Do you give them new mantras? How do you help them with that?
We actually create a lot of mantras together. I think everybody should own their own mantra. We also do a lot of anonymous notes of support. So it's also, we write on sticky notes, like everybody write something that you wish somebody would say to you, or that, would make you feel better. And then we put them in a pile, and at the end of the skateboard class, we hand them out. And the girls are always so thankful to be seen, even if it's anonymously, anonymously seen. But they always then want to run around and say, like, oh, who wrote this one? Who wrote that one? Who got mine? And they get real excited about that. And they get really excited about passing those compliments to each other. And then we talk about the fact of, like, you can also give compliments to yourself. And I think that's something that was a real big surprise for me, is when I first started talking about compliments and how maybe it feels a bit awkward, is that, some people said, well, I don't want to sound conceited, or I don't want to sound like too into myself. And so then now what we do is weekly wins. No, you can be proud of yourself, and we're going to celebrate you. So at the end of our skateboarding class, it's every day, okay, tell me something you're proud of. And then not only have I said, well, today I'm proud of, and it could be, I did okay on my math test. Everybody in that circle claps. Mm-hmm. And it's practicing being proud of yourself and owning your story. And that, I think that shame that a lot of times women are told that we need to make ourselves smaller, or like, well, gosh, she must really think she's hot shit. But it's like, yeah, if you're hot shit, be hot shit, And so, that's are just small little tweaks that can help.
Awesome. Yeah. Are there questions in the audience? Okay, awesome. Do we have some mics? Oh, great. Hold on one second. Stella's going to give you a mic.
Stella!
Go, Stella!
Queen of Hearts.
Is this on? Okay, it is. So I actually know both women standing on the stage tonight, because one is my mom, Lisa Hogg. And Merida Miller, I've actually met a time before, because I almost was a mentor for Project Fearless.
I remember.
But my question to all the women on stage, including my mom, even though I speak to her about it several times, I'm currently 20 years old. I currently am studying international business for the very first time. And my question to you is, what advice would you give to a 20-year-old female finding her way through life and embracing a new idea of the world?
Lisa, Zoom, is Zoom coming
I would take it, but she doesn't listen to me.
Yeah, Oslo, go ahead.
I'm going to keep it really simple. When you can't answer the question of what comes next in your life, just be still and listen to that voice that is actually your curiosity. So when I couldn't find my decisions as to what step I take in what order, or who to reach out to, or which country to live in, or whether to, work for a corporate or start my own business, just listen to that curious voice and just, surrender to that, because that is your higher self speaking to you, guiding you to make the right choices. And step by step, I love that idea of looking at the steps, not the staircases, Lisa, and just take it and just take those steps, and you'll have the answer.
Yeah, I would say something similar. I would just say similar, of like, take a pause. I think right now, especially with social media and everything else, everything feels so urgent all the time. And you're seeing everybody switch their hats, change, their entire look in a day. But take your time. And this is, again, I don't practice it all the time, but I'm trying, is to just enjoy every moment. Really enjoy the studying, enjoy learning what you don't like. I think a lot of times that can be really frustrating. You go to a class and you're like, oh, sucks. But at least, hey, that's one more guardrail that's pointing you in the right direction of what you're going to find yourself. So celebrate those moments.
Yeah, and something that I think we all need to hear, but I especially want you to hear, you are enough, and you got this.
Yeah. Preach.
So beautiful. Are there any more questions in the audience? Okay, all right, I have plenty, so I'm just trying to share. So, yeah, a lot of us, well, I can speak personally, came out of the pandemic, even if things hadn't completely fallen apart, just there was this incredible sense of just, on the one hand, overwhelm about social equity, about climate change, and at the same time, this incredible lack of ability to motivate. And I think a lot of people felt that. And there are some people, I'm sure, who aren't necessarily feeling like, I know I want to quit my job and start a new business, but they do want change. And so what are some of the kind of smaller pieces of advice, or just like you know, a smaller piece of help that's maybe not so much like rip out everything and start from scratch, but, you know, finding
recalibration.
joy. Yeah,
a reset, a recalibration.
Exactly.
What I found, especially, you know, during the intense static of the pandemic, is I actually focused on the things closest to me that bring me joy. Because we should give a shit about climate change and racial and gender equity and all these different things. But if you look at them, you feel like you can't even breathe at times. And we all have our roles to play. So what I started to think about and focus on is what's close to me that I can potentially impact. Also what brings me joy, because you've got to balance shit out. You can't be saving the world 24/7, like Merida said. When you're doing your passion, it's social impact entrepreneurs burn out like this because they have no boundaries. So, you know, find these things that make you happy and make the changes. It's all relative, you know, and also not to be, I think, intimidated by someone else's reset. It's all relative. Big and small, it's still a reset. So I think spend time figuring out what you need, and maybe it isn't, you know, burn the fucking house down and, you know, rebuild somewhere else. It doesn't always have to be that grandiose.
Yeah.
I would say along the same lines of making an impact is that, you know, we talk to the girls that, you know, find your voice. And I think a lot of times people think that finding your voice means that you get up on stage and sing and dance and yell and scream. But
are you pointing at me?
No, sorry. I'm pointing at us. I'm pointing at us collectively as we sing and dance across the stage. No, but I think there's also, not only is there the pressure to act, there's also this pressure to be seen acting, and to this huge pressure to be the best at acting in a way, right? So like, but we talk to our girls that not everybody can be Greta Thunberg, and not everybody should be Greta Thunberg. Not everybody needs to lead a march to make an impact. And so in our artivism class, you know, there's these small little changes that these are our coaches up here, rock stars. And they're teaching girls how to use climate science and art as an active for change. So using your passion, using something you love as a facilitation to make these small impacts. And those are ripple effects, and those change things. There's a great quote from, what's his name? But he says, it was actually his grandma, I think. You can't change the world, but you can change his corner. You can change your corner of the world. And I think that's just really beautiful, and that's something to hold on to, because it can be just so overwhelming to feel like you're not doing enough. Yes, and as a social impact maker, I can tell you, you always feel like you're not doing enough. So take it one step at a time, one girl at a time.
Well, and that makes me think about Semra, because you didn't have to leave your job, Semra, to find your reset. And I think that's really valuable for a lot of people who don't want to necessarily quit. I know that we're going through the Great Resignation, and 41% of people do want to quit their jobs. But for those of us who want to stay where we are but still want to see change, do you have words of advice around that, like how to kind of move faster or make a shift in an ecosystem that you're already in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was in a totally different department before it was diversity and inclusion. I worked as a policy advisor, and basically my last topic was radicalization. So it's quite like a tough topic to work on. And I then, like, I was realizing that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted more autonomy. I wanted to break free. But I also realized, okay, I have a high mortgage. I'm in a marriage. I have 2 little kids. I'm paying daycare. So that felt so frightening. I was not able to quit my job and dive into it like all the other cool stories that I would read from everybody else, of course. And then I just told this struggle to one of the, basically I just had a normal work meeting with her, and suddenly we talked about this. And then she said, then Samra, you need to create your current environment around what you want to do. See what you can do at the city of Amsterdam that's aligned with your next step. And when she said that, it was a huge eye opener for me. And then I started to drink cups of coffee for 2 years with people from economical affairs. I didn't give up. It took me 2 freaking years. And I'm pretty confident when it comes to my CV. I'm not like a standard civil servant, but still took me 2 years. And then I was there. I got in. So, and now I'm basically doing what I want to do as an employee. And next to it, I'm building my business. And it's for the same target group, basically. And that feels, so there are much more opportunities than you think. When you start to be more vocal about what you want or what your struggle is even, people then give you ideas, people you wouldn't even expect it from.
Great. I think we have heard a lot of really inspiring and also, I think, actionable tips. And so if people don't have any more questions, I want to, oh, one last question. Okay.
Thank you so much. I was just wondering, like, recently I've gone through a few big leaps and it feels great. Like you guys said, it gives a lot of energy, but I do feel that I miss grounding. And I was just wondering, in all this insecurity and like taking the big leaps, how do you find your grounding?
Yeah.
Great question.
That's a great question. I still think back to this one time when I was in my corporate career. And even in my corporate career, I was doing a million different jobs. And I remember telling my manager at the time of like, this is unsustainable. Too many things, you know? And he said, you gotta get used to you gotta get comfortable in the uncertain. And as annoying as that is, it's part of the process. And I think the one thing I can always rely on now is my team. I have an incredible team who is motivated for Project Fearless for all different reasons, so they all come together for that, and I can lean on them for so many different reasons. But I know I'm in a fortunate situation that I actually have a team that's working on Project Fearless, but I would say find your team of your friends, of your family, of your network, and actually sometimes not even your friends, you know, just people you connect with about a certain thing, and share what you're feeling. Find that one hype person who's gonna just like hype you up no matter what. But the uncertainty, unfortunately, it's part of it. It's like, and I don't know, do you feel that you've ever, that's what I'm saying, I'm always in a testing phase. That's why this is an adventure, is like a laugh, cry sort of situation, because there's a lot of times I'm laughing and crying. So for me, it's kind of accepting that and knowing that like every wave that rises, it will come back down, and enjoying those down moments too. If that's helpful, but.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't mind the uncertainty that much because I get bored easily. So kind of change is I'm a fan of it. For me, it's more the belief that I had scarcity in support, and that I was totally in it on my own. And there were two things. One is have your own back. know that you 100% have your own back. And I think when you feel that, you feel more grounded. And it doesn't matter what happens. If you have your own back, you're good. And then the second thing is you do have people around you that you can lean on, even in those moments where you think, oh, I'm all on my own and, you know, no one's going to help me. It's complete and utter bullshit. There's some people that truly maybe do have that, but most of us don't. So I think for me, it's have your own back first so that you can ground yourself in those moments. But then also, like you said, have your support system and your hype girls and boys.
And call me whenever you need it. I got you. Honestly. I love that. Follow Project Fearless Instagram. We do a lot of shout outs, so it's a good one. Hype you up.
I do have one last question from Zoom, if I can just pose it to all the panelists, and that is, would your advice tonight differ if it was someone who's in their 50s and not in their 20s?
Fuck no. I'm 46. I've just begun.
That's clean.
So no. I mean, I think Osram said it best. It's like these life stages of, you go to, university. I didn't go to university, but you do all these things and you have kids then and you do this then and whatever. We live much longer than we used to if we take better care of ourselves. But no, I mean, why should our age impose a limit?
Just have more, like, a library of resources behind you.
I'm going for 50 over, the 50 over 50s at this point, because I can't do 40 under 40 or any of the others, and 50 under 50 doesn't sound fun. I
like that.
I love that.
Yeah, I just see a lot of people around me here that have built a lot of wealth. But there's something missing, and that's definitely purpose. That's definitely impact. And I would love them to join a talk like this one. But those are the people that I would really see that they would find what makes their heart really click.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
And I would just say that mastering change happens at any time in life. So age just doesn't even come into it. You can see that any low point can turn into a turning point. So when I'm in that moment and when I see my clients just get to this place where in that breakdown, they know that right around the corner is a breakthrough. And so age is just a number. You can grow and evolve, and transitions happen in your life all the way through your life. It's just, I'm real champion of just non-linearity, throughout, no matter where you are in life. And I'm 47 and I've never felt so excited in my life ever with where I am. I think I so feel that energy of like freedom actually coming about in that, evolution and stage. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it feels like younger generations are way more comfortable with fluidity in every way, shape, and form. And a number is not as fluid as just living your life. So I really like that. Hey, thank you so much, everyone, and thank you to the audience on Zoom, and thank you to Pakhuis de Zwijger. Thank you to the SheSays team who helped make this happen. Thank you to Future Factor, and thank you to all of you for being here in person and taking the leap to come out and do a live event again. It's so nice to see humans and faces, and thank you so much. Drinks downstairs, mingling, networking, talking to humans.
Hugs.